My wife declared, "You lack the courage to defend the empire you established." She scoffed after her kin ousted me. I simply nodded. The following morning, their personal attorney contacted her, his tone trembling. The ballot, it didn't dismiss him. It merely activated Clause 11, Part B. May heaven assist us all. My entire life, everything I built from the ground up, was nearly ripped away from me by the very people I trusted most. They thought they had me cornered, believed they'd won, but what they didn't know is that I'd buried a nuclear bomb deep within my company's foundations, waiting for exactly this moment. Can you even imagine? Seriously, I've been staring at the screen for hours, trying to figure out where to start. My therapist says writing it down might help. My lawyer, bless his heart, told me not to post anything online. But after what just went down, playing it safe? That's not me anymore. I'm David Peterson, 54 years old, and I built Peterson Tech Solutions from absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Back in 1997, I was 26, living in Phoenix. I started in my parents' garage with a beat-up Dell laptop I snagged for $200 at a pawn shop, a folding table from Costco, and a dream that everyone probably thought was completely insane. I was working the night shift at a warehouse, then spending every free moment teaching myself to code. The internet was still new, right? It felt like if you were smart and hungry enough, you could actually carve out your own little piece of it. I saw an opportunity in industrial automation software, the boring stuff that makes factories run smoother. Not glamorous, not sexy, but necessary. And necessary makes money. Those first 5 years? Brutal. We're talking ramen noodles for dinner, for hours of sleep a night, and relying on the public library for internet because I couldn't afford my own connection. My first employee was my college roommate Marcus, who practically worked for equity because I couldn't pay him squat. Our first office was a storage unit that definitely didn't allow people to work in it, but the owner looked the other way because I always paid on time. We made it work. Slowly, painfully, we grew. My first contract was for $8,000 for a small manufacturing plant in Tucson. I remember holding that check, just sitting in my car and literally crying. Marcus thought something was wrong. I looked at him, tears streaming, and said, "No, everything is finally right." Fast forward 28 years. Peterson Tech Solutions is now worth $180 million. We've got 340 employees across 4 states. We've automated systems for some of the biggest manufacturers in the country. That broken laptop in a garage turned into something my 26-year-old self couldn't have even imagined in his wildest dreams. And somewhere along the way, I met Sarah. That's where this story really begins. That's where it all started falling apart. Part 1. The cracks appear. I met Sarah 8 years ago at a tech conference in San Diego. She was 24, working as an events coordinator for a startup that, surprise, folded 6 months later. Long auburn hair, a bright, captivating smile, and this energy that made you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. I'd spent 20 years married to my work, barely dating, always too busy for relationships. Sarah felt like a thunderstorm. Sudden. Intense. Impossible to ignore. We got married 14 months later. Fast. I know. Everyone said it. My lawyer said it. Marcus said it. He was my best man and gave the most awkward toast in wedding history because it was clear he didn't approve. My daughter, Emma, who was 19 and away at college in Seattle, didn't even come to the wedding. She sent a card that just said, "Be careful, Dad. Love you." I should have listened. The first year was good. Great, even. Sarah was attentive. She seemed genuinely interested in the business, always asking questions about how things worked. She'd bring lunch to the office, sit in on meetings, get to know the staff. I truly believed she cared. I thought she was interested in my world. Year 2, things shifted. Subtly at first. She started making suggestions. You know what this company needs? Fresh perspective, young blood, people who understand modern business. Then came the family introductions. Her brother, Kyle, was between jobs and had so much financial experience. Her cousin, Monica, had amazing project management skills. Her uncle, Jerry, had decades of business wisdom. One by one, I hired them. Not because I needed them, not really. But because Sarah would get this hurt look in her eyes and say things like, "Don't you trust my judgment?" Or, "I thought we were building a life together, not just your company." Manipulation, disguised as partnership. I see that so clearly now. Kyle became CFO 2 years ago. He had an MBA from some online program and had previously worked at 3 different companies, never lasting more than 18 months at any of them. But he was family, and Sarah insisted he deserved a chance. Monica took over project management despite never actually managing a project over $50,000. Jerry became senior advisor, which mostly meant he showed up late, left early, and collected a 6-figure salary for attending meetings where he contributed nothing. Marcus warned me. He pulled me aside after Kyle's second week. "Dave, what are you doing? This guy doesn't know a balance sheet from a bed sheet." I laughed it off. Told him to give Kyle time. Told him Sarah's family deserved the same chance I'd give anyone else. Marcus just looked at me with this sad, knowing expression. "You're not giving them a chance," he said, his voice quiet. "You're giving them the company." He resigned 4 months later. 23 years of friendship and partnership gone. He didn't make a scene. Just handed me a letter that said he couldn't watch what was coming. We haven't spoken since. I tried calling, but he never picked up. I don't blame him now. The thing about slow betrayals is you don't really see them happening. It's like gaining weight. You don't notice it day to day, but then you look at a photo from 5 years ago and realize how much has changed. Sarah started spending money differently. First, it was redecorating our house. Then a new car. Then investment properties she wanted to buy for our future. When I hesitated, she'd get cold, distant. She'd sleep in the guest room and give me the silent treatment until I agreed. She also started spending more time at the office, but in a different way. Not sitting with me anymore. She was in closed-door meetings with Kyle, with Monica, with Jerry. Planning strategy sessions I wasn't invited to. When I asked about it, she'd say, "I'm just trying to help streamline things, babe. You've been doing this alone for so long. Let us help you." Red flags everywhere. I just chose to ignore them. Because acknowledging them meant acknowledging my marriage was a lie. 6 months ago, Sarah started acting different at home too. She was distant, constantly on her phone, texting people she wouldn't name. When I'd come home from work, she'd quickly close her laptop. She stopped asking about my day, stopped pretending to care about the business updates I'd share over dinner. She also started making comments. Little cutting remarks that felt like paper cuts. Small, but they accumulated. "You're getting older, David. Maybe it's time to think about succession planning. The industry is changing. I'm not sure you're keeping up. Kyle has some really innovative ideas. You should listen to him more. Don't you think someone with fresh energy should be running things?" Each comment alone seemed harmless. Together, they formed a pattern. She was trying to convince me, and maybe herself, that I was obsolete. That I didn't deserve what I'd built. Then came last month. Sarah told me the board wanted to have a strategic planning meeting to discuss the company's direction. Nothing unusual about that. We had quarterly meetings all the time. But something felt off. She was too eager, too excited. She kept checking her phone, smiling at messages. "Who are you texting?" I asked one night. "Just Kyle about the meeting. Nothing important." That smile. That goddamn smile. Part 2. The meeting that changed everything. The meeting was scheduled for Thursday, 2 p.m. I remember because I had a call with our biggest client that morning and everything went great. We just signed a 3-year contract extension worth $12 million. I was in a good mood, thinking about how to celebrate with the team. I walked into the conference room at 1:55 p.m. Sarah was already there, sitting at the opposite end of the table. Not in her usual seat next to me, but at the far end, like she was claiming territory. Kyle sat to her right, wearing a suit that was too expensive for someone making his salary. Monica was there, typing on her laptop, but watching me like a hawk. Jerry was drinking coffee, avoiding eye contact. 3 other executives filled out the rest of the table. All people Sarah had pushed me to hire over the past few years. All family connections or friends of family. The only non-family member was Catherine, our head of operations, who had been with the company for 12 years. She looked uncomfortable. Like she knew something I didn't. "Thanks for coming, David," Sarah said, her voice dripping with mock politeness. As if I had a choice about attending a meeting in my own company. "What's this about?" I asked, sitting down at what used to be my spot at the head of the table. Kyle was sitting there instead. He didn't move. "We need to discuss the future of Peterson Tech," Sarah said, her voice suddenly formal. Cold. "The board has some concerns about current leadership and the direction of the company." My stomach dropped. "The board?" "Sarah," I said, my voice tight. "I founded this company." "I am the company." Kyle cleared his throat. "With all due respect, David, companies evolve. Founders don't always evolve with them." Monica nodded like a bobblehead. "We've been reviewing the numbers," Monica chimed in, "and while revenue is stable, we're not growing at the rate we should be. We just signed a $12 million contract this morning." I shot back, my voice rising. "What are you talking about?" "One contract doesn't make a strategy," Jerry chimed in, finally looking at me. "We need aggressive expansion, new markets. You're playing it too safe." This was coordinated. Rehearsed. They'd planned this. "Sarah," I said, looking at my wife. "What is this really about?" She met my eyes with no emotion, like looking at a stranger. "The board is calling a vote on your position as CEO. We believe it's time for new leadership." The room spun for a second. "You're voting me out of the company I built?" "It's not personal, David," Kyle said, but his smirk said otherwise. "It's business. This is insane. You can't just—" "Actually, we can," Sarah interrupted. "According to the current bylaws, a majority board vote can remove any executive, including the CEO. We have the votes." I looked around the table. Monica wouldn't meet my eyes. Jerry was studying his coffee cup like it held the secrets of the universe. The other three executives, all Sarah's people, sat there like statues. Only Catherine looked distressed. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closed it. She was outnumbered, and she knew it. "So that's it?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. 28 years. Everything I built. My life's work. And you're just going to take it?" Sarah leaned forward. And this is the moment that's burned into my brain forever. Her eyes were cold, almost gleeful. She'd been waiting to say this. "You're not man enough to fight for the company you built." The words hit like a physical blow. She said it loud enough for everyone to hear, for the secretary outside taking notes to hear. For everyone to remember. Kyle tried to hide his smile. Monica actually looked shocked by how cruel it was. Jerry shifted uncomfortably. But Sarah just stared at me, waiting for my reaction. She wanted me to explode, to yell, to beg. To give her the satisfaction of watching me break down. The room was completely silent. I could hear the air conditioning humming. Someone's phone buzzed. Catherine's pen stopped moving on her notepad. I felt everything in that moment. Rage. Betrayal. Humiliation. But underneath it all was something else. Something colder. Clarity. Because in that moment, I remembered something. Something I'd buried so deep that even I'd almost forgotten about it. "You know what I did?" I nodded. Just once. A single, sharp nod, like I was confirming something to myself. Then I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and walked toward the door. "David?" Sarah's voice cracked slightly. She'd expected a fight. "That's it? You're not going to say anything?" I paused at the door, hand on the handle. I didn't turn around. "I heard what I needed to hear," I said quietly. Then I walked out. Part 3. The walk from the conference room to my office felt like miles, even though it was maybe 50 feet. Every step echoed in the hallway. I could feel Sarah's confusion radiating through the walls behind me. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She'd scripted my humiliation, and I'd refused to play my part. Our new receptionist, Amy, 23 years old, pink blazer, hired just 2 weeks ago, probably by Sarah to replace someone loyal to me, looked up as I passed. Her eyes were wide. She'd definitely been told to pay attention and report everything back. I didn't go toward the parking garage. I turned left, toward the executive offices, toward my office. The door was unlocked. Everything inside was exactly as I'd left it that morning. My desk, still cluttered with papers from the contract signing. The framed photo of Emma from her college graduation, the last time I'd seen her in person. She'd moved to Seattle for a job at Microsoft, and our relationship had gotten distant, strained. My fault, probably. Always working, always focused on building the company. Never enough time for my own daughter. There was my first invoice, yellowed and framed on the wall, $8,000 from Desert Manufacturing, dated June 15, 1997. I'd cried when I got that check. Cried like a baby in my car while Marcus laughed and said, "We did it, man. We actually did it." On my desk was a brass paperweight shaped like an anvil. Emma had given it to me when she was 12, before the divorce from her mother, before everything got complicated. Before I threw myself into work and forgot how to be a father. The engraving said, "For Dad, who builds things that last." I picked it up, feeling the weight of it. The weight of everything. Then I walked to the credenza behind my desk. It was an old piece, oak, refinished 3 times over the years. I'd bought it at an estate sale in 2002 for $50. Behind it was a panel in the wall. Not a safe, not obviously. Just a panel that looked like part of the wall trim. I'd installed it myself in 1997 before we even moved into this building. Back when the office was just a rented space above a dry cleaner, and I was still paranoid about everything I'd built disappearing. My hands were shaking as I pried the panel open. Inside was a small space, maybe 12 inches deep. And inside that space was a brown leather binder, cracked with age. The spine split down the middle from years of handling. I pulled it out and sat down at my desk. The leather was cool against my palms. It smelled like old paper and dust and history. This was the original company charter. The one I'd filed with the state of Arizona in 1997, before Peterson Tech Solutions even had employees. Before we had real clients. Before any of this became real. Before Sarah. Before Kyle. Before any of them. I opened the binder carefully. The pages were yellowed, some of them dog-eared from the times I'd reviewed it over the years. My original signature in blue ink, young and optimistic. Marcus's signature next to mine. We'd signed it at a Denny's at 2 a.m. after working for 18 hours straight. Both of us exhausted and terrified and excited. I flipped past the first pages. Past the mission statement I'd written by hand. Past the initial investment notes. My parents had given me $10,000, their entire savings. Past the licensing agreements and the partnership terms. Page 37. Article 11, Section B, Founder Protection Protocol. I'd almost forgotten about it. Almost. My original lawyer, a guy named Martin Chin, who I'd hired for $500 when I could barely afford it, had thought I was paranoid when I insisted on this clause. We'd argued about it for hours in his cramped office that smelled like cigarette smoke and desperation. "David, no one's going to try to kick you out of your own company," he'd said, laughing. "You're the only one who knows how any of this works. Just humor me," I told him. "Call it insurance." He'd shrugged and written it up, buried it deep in the appendix under a section titled Administrative Protocols and Compliance Procedures. Page 37. The kind of page no one ever reads because it sounds boring and technical and irrelevant. But it wasn't irrelevant. It was a nuclear bomb. Carefully hidden and waiting. I read the clause again, even though I had it memorized, in the event of a hostile board vote to remove the original founding member from executive authority without just cause. Defined strictly as felony conviction or certified mental incapacitation verified by 2 independent physicians, all executive and shareholder powers shall immediately revert to a state of legal suspension pending external compliance review. Said review shall be overseen by a committee appointed in advance by the founding member. During this suspension period, all board actions, financial transfers, executive appointments, and corporate decisions shall be deemed invalid and without legal standing. Reinstatement of corporate authority shall be determined solely by the appointed review committee after full audit of all actions taken preceding the triggering vote. In plain English, if you try to kick me out without legitimate legal cause, everything freezes. Every account. Every transfer. Every executive decision you make, invalid, frozen, dead in the water. And the only person who could unfreeze it was me. The clause had 3 layers of protection. First, it was legally filed with the state and the SEC. Second, I'd appointed the review committee 28 years ago, a law firm I'd kept on retainer that Sarah and Kyle didn't even know existed. Third, I'd notarized and filed copies in 3 separate locations: Martin's private vault, my original investor's trust. The investor had died, but the trust was still active, and the records department of the first bank that had given me a business loan in 1998. It was bulletproof. Martin had made sure of that, even though he thought it was overkill. If you ever need to use this, he told me, it means everything went wrong. But if you do need it, no one will see it coming. Sitting there in my office, hearing the muffled voices of Sarah and Kyle celebrating in the conference room down the hall, I realized Martin had been right about both things. Everything had gone wrong, and they had no idea what was coming. I reached for my pen. Not the fancy Mont Blanc that Sarah had given me for our anniversary, probably bought with company money. Not the sleek designer pens Kyle used to show off in meetings. My original pen. A cheap Bic rollerball, blue ink, bought in a 10-pack from Walgreens in 1997. I'd used this exact pen, or ones just like it, to sign every major deal, every contract, every important document for 28 years. It felt right to use it now. My hand trembled as I positioned the pen above the activation line. Not from fear. From restraint. From 28 years of patience and work and sacrifice about to be distilled into one signature. This wasn't rage anymore. Rage is hot. This was something colder. The kind of cold you feel when you realize someone you loved, someone you trusted with everything, has been systematically destroying you. The kind of cold that smells like rain on concrete and tastes like metal. I signed my full legal name, David Robert Peterson. Dated it October 24, 2025. Initialed the bottom right corner. That was it. 28 years of building, of trust, of second chances, of believing the best in people. All of it came down to one line of defense. But what a line. I took out my phone and photographed the signed page. Then I sent it to 3 email addresses: the law firm, the trust administrator, and the bank's records department. All 3 had standing instructions from 1997 about what to do if they ever received this photograph. Within minutes, all 3 confirmed receipt with automated replies I'd set up decades ago. The wheels were in motion. The protocol was active. I stood up, carefully placed the binder back in its hiding spot, and closed the panel. Then I walked to the window. Down below, I could see the parking lot. Sarah's white Mercedes was parked in the spot marked CEO, a spot she'd had repainted last month without asking me. Kyle's Tesla was next to it. Monica's Lexus, Jerry's Cadillac. All of them paid for with money from a company they just voted to steal from me. But that wasn't accurate, was it? They hadn't stolen anything. They just activated the trap. I allowed myself one small smile. Then I grabbed my coat, turned off the lights, and walked out of the building. As I passed the conference room, I could hear champagne glasses clinking. Someone was laughing, probably Kyle. Sarah was saying something about new directions and modern leadership. Amy, the receptionist, watched me leave with wide eyes. She'd probably been told to make sure I didn't take anything, didn't delete anything, didn't cause a scene. I did none of those things. I just nodded at her politely and walked out the front door. The Arizona sun was brutal. Even in October. My car was parked in the far lot. I'd given up the close spots to executives years ago. Seemed like good leadership at the time. Seemed stupid now. I sat in my car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, not going anywhere. My phone was already buzzing. 3 texts from Sarah. We need to discuss transition logistics. Kyle will need access to your accounts by Monday. Please don't make this difficult. I didn't respond. I just drove home. Part 4. The longest night. Our house, a 4-bedroom in Scottsdale that Sarah had insisted on buying 3 years ago, felt empty when I got home. She was still at the office, probably celebrating, probably planning how to spend money that wouldn't be hers much longer. I poured myself a scotch. Expensive stuff. 18-year-old Macallan that Sarah had bought for entertaining clients. I'd never been much of a drinker, but tonight felt appropriate. I sat on the back patio and watched the sunset over the desert. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Beautiful. And completely indifferent to human drama. My phone kept buzzing. Kyle called twice. I didn't answer. Monica sent an email about transition planning. Jerry texted asking if I was okay. The audacity. Around 9 p.m., Sarah came home. I heard her car pull into the garage, heard her heels clicking on the tile floor. She found me on the patio. "We need to talk," she said. I took a sip of scotch. "Do we?" She sat down across from me, but not close. Keeping distance. "David, I know you're upset, but this is better for everyone. You've been running yourself into the ground. The company needs fresh energy." "Fresh energy," I repeated. "Is that what you call it? You're taking this personally." She sighed like I was being difficult. "It's just business." "Just business?" I said. "Our marriage is just business?" She didn't answer that. Instead, "Kyle is going to need your passwords, your account access, your files. We can do this the easy way or what?" I looked at her directly. "Or the hard way." "Are you threatening me, Sarah?" "I'm being practical. Fighting this will only make things worse for you." I laughed. Actually laughed. She looked offended. "What's funny?" "Nothing," I said. "Everything. I'm just thinking about something my old lawyer told me a long time ago." "What's that?" He said, "David, if you ever have to use that clause, it means everything went wrong. But if you do, no one will see it coming." Sarah frowned. "What clause? What are you talking about?" "Nothing important. You'll find out soon enough." I finished my scotch. "David, you're not making sense. Did you drink too much?" "Not nearly enough." I stood up. "I'm going to bed. You can take the guest room. I assume you'll want to keep distance from the man you just betrayed." Her face flushed with anger. "I didn't betray you. I saved the company from your outdated management style. In 5 years, you'll thank me." "In 5 years," I said quietly, "you won't even remember what the inside of that office looks like." I left her on the patio, confused and angry. I didn't care anymore. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the signs I'd missed. All the moments I'd chosen to ignore because acknowledging them would mean my marriage was fake. My trust was misplaced. My judgment was flawed. Sarah had never loved me. She'd loved what I could give her. Status. Money. Power. Access to something she could take. Kyle had never respected me. He tolerated me while positioning himself to replace me. All of them. Every single one of Sarah's family I'd hired. They'd been waiting for this. Planning it. Maybe for years. And I'd let them in. Opened every door. Given them every advantage. Marcus had tried to warn me. Emma had tried to warn me. Even Martin, 28 years ago, had tried to warn me in his own way by making absolutely sure that Claus was ironclad. But I hadn't listened. I'd been too proud. Too confident. Too naive. Now, lying in bed at 3 a.m., I wasn't naive anymore. Around 4 a.m., I heard Sarah's phone ring. She was in the guest room, but I could hear her answer. "What? What do you mean frozen?" Her voice rose. She was pacing. "That's impossible. We just finalized everything today. How can the accounts be frozen?" A pause. Then, "What the hell is Article 11, Section B?" I smiled in the darkness. It was starting. Part 5. Morning light. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of Sarah screaming on the phone. Multiple phones. She was in the kitchen, her laptop open, papers scattered everywhere. "I don't care what time it is. Get him on the phone now." She was yelling at someone. "This is an emergency." I made coffee. Slowly. Methodically. Grinding the beans, measuring the water, waiting for it to brew. The normalcy of it felt surreal. Sarah burst into the kitchen, her hair a mess, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes wild. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Good morning to you too," I said. I poured my coffee. "Want some?" "David, I'm serious. What the F*** did you do?" I'd never heard her curse before. Not like that. She was always so carefully composed. "I signed a document," I said calmly. "Just like you asked. You asked me to leave, so I left. The accounts are frozen. All of them. Operating accounts, payroll, everything. Kyle can't access anything. Our lawyer says there's some kind of legal hold on the entire company." "Interesting," I mused. Interesting. She slammed her hand on the counter. "Do you know what you've done?" "I know exactly what I've done." "Do you?" My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. I answered. Mr. Peterson, a man's voice, formal. This is Richard Morrison from Morrison and Associates. We received your activation photograph at 5:47 p.m. yesterday. Per the standing agreement established in 1997, we have initiated the Article 11, Section B protocol. All corporate functions of Peterson Tech Solutions have been placed under legal suspension pending external review. As of 6 a.m. this morning, all executive actions taken after the October 24th board vote have been declared invalid. We'll need to schedule a meeting to discuss reinstatement procedures. Thank you, Richard, I said. I'll be in touch. I hung up. Sarah was staring at me, face white. Who is that? That was the law firm I retained 28 years ago to oversee the Founder Protection Protocol. You might want to call your lawyer back. He's about to have a very bad day. Sarah's phone rang. She answered it with shaking hands. Hello. I watched her face change. From confusion to shock to horror to rage. All in about 30 seconds. What do you mean, everything's invalid? We had a board vote, a legal vote. A pause. I don't care what some ancient clause says. A longer pause. Her face went pale. That's not possible. He can't just. She looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Fear. The voice on the other end kept talking. She wasn't responding anymore. Just listening. Her hands started shaking so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Finally, she whispered, God, help us all. And hung up. We stared at each other across the kitchen. The coffee pot was still dripping. The morning light was coming through the windows, golden and peaceful. Everything looked normal, except nothing was normal anymore. You planned this, she said quietly. All along. You let us think we'd won. I didn't plan anything, I said. I just bought insurance 28 years ago. You're the ones who cashed in the policy. This will destroy the company. You know that, right? Without access to accounts, we can't pay employees. Can't fulfill contracts. Can't we? I set my coffee down. There is no we, Sarah. There never was. You made that clear yesterday when you told me I wasn't man enough to fight for what I built. I didn't mean yes, you did. You meant every word. You and Kyle and all your family. You thought you could just walk in and take 28 years of my life because I was too old, too tired, too nice to fight back. David, the accounts will be unfrozen when I say so. The company will resume operations when I say so. And you, Sarah, won't be there when it happens. You can't kick me out. I'm your wife. Are you? I grabbed my keys. Funny. Yesterday, you kicked me out of my company. Today, you're my wife again. Convenient. Where are you going? To see a lawyer. Not your lawyer. My lawyer. The one I should have listened to years ago. I walked out, leaving her standing in the kitchen with her phone ringing again and again. Everyone calling to ask her what the hell was happening, and her not having any answers. Because the truth was, Article 11, Section B wasn't just about freezing assets. It was about revealing who people really were when the power shifted. And Sarah, Kyle, all of them, they were about to find out what it felt like to be powerless. Part 6. The fallout. By noon, my phone was exploding. Kyle called 11 times. Monica sent 17 emails. Jerry showed up at my house. I didn't answer the door. Catherine, the only board member who hadn't voted against me, sent a text. I voted no. I'm sorry. What can I do to help? I responded, thank you. Just sit tight. The law firm, Morrison and Associates, had moved fast. By 2 p.m., they'd filed emergency injunctions with the court, frozen every Peterson Tech account, and sent cease and desist letters to every board member who'd voted against me. The letters basically said, you attempted an illegal removal of the founding member. All actions you've taken since that vote are void. Touch nothing. Call tried to log into the system at 3 p.m. His access was denied. He tried calling the bank. They told him they couldn't discuss the account with him because his executive authority was under legal question. Sarah kept calling me. I didn't answer. She sent texts. David, please. We can fix this. I made a mistake. Can we talk? Then, the employees are panicking. You're hurting innocent people. That last one almost worked. Because she was right. Employees were panicking. My phone had messages from people who'd worked for me for years asking if they'd still get paid, if they still had jobs, if the company was going under. But the clause protected that. Payroll was handled through an automated system that continued regardless of the freeze. Existing contracts were still valid. The only thing frozen was new executive decisions and asset transfers. The only people really affected were the ones who tried to steal from me. Around 4 p.m., I got a call from a number I recognized. Marcus. Hey, he said, his voice cautious. I heard what happened. News travels fast, I replied. Tech industry is small. People talk. David, what you did? That clause. That was brilliant. He paused. You told me not to hire them. You did. I didn't listen. But this, he laughed, a genuine, hearty laugh. This is poetry. It doesn't feel like poetry. It feels like a nightmare. That's because you still have a conscience. But David, listen to me. Don't back down. Don't let them guilt you. Sarah and Kyle, they did this, not you. They thought you were weak, and you showed them what real strength looks like. Strength isn't fighting. It's building something so well that it can't be stolen. I felt my throat tighten. I missed you, man. I missed you too. When this is over, let's grab a beer. Talk about the old days. I'd like that. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a long time. I'd driven to a park nowhere special, just somewhere away from everything. Kids were playing on swings. Parents were pushing strollers. Normal life continuing while mine imploded. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Peterson, this is Jennifer Hayes from the SEC. We've been reviewing the filing your attorney submitted regarding Peterson Tech Solutions. We need to schedule a meeting to discuss the circumstances surrounding the October 24th board vote. The SEC. This was getting serious. Of course, I said. When? Monday morning, 9 a.m. Our Phoenix office. And Mr. Peterson, bring documentation of everything. Every email, every meeting note, every financial record from the past 3 years. We're going to need it. Everything. Part 7. The investigation that weekend was the longest of my life. Sarah moved out on Saturday, showing up with Kyle and Jerry to get her things while I was out. I came home to find half the house empty, her closets cleaned out, the expensive art she'd insisted on buying gone. She left a note on the kitchen counter. You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. I threw it away. Sunday, I spent preparing for the SEC meeting. I had years of records. Emails where Sarah pushed me to hire her family. Financial reports showing how much money they'd collectively siphoned through inflated salaries. Meeting notes where Kyle had suggested restructuring that would have benefited him personally. I also found emails I thought I deleted, but my IT guy had backed up. Messages between Sarah and Kyle planning the takeover. They went back 18 months. One from Sarah to Kyle. He's getting suspicious about the spending. We need to move faster. Kyle's response, don't worry. Once we have the votes, he's out. The company becomes ours. Another from Kyle to Monica. Make sure Jerry understands the plan. When the vote happens, everyone needs to be on board. No wavering. We remove David. Install me as CEO and redirect the company's focus to where the real money is. Where the real money is meant selling off divisions and liquidating assets for short-term gain. They weren't trying to save the company. They were trying to strip it for parts. I printed everything. Monday morning, I walked into the SEC office with 4 banker boxes full of documentation. Jennifer Hayes was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Peterson, thank you for coming. Before we begin, I want to clarify the purpose of this meeting. We're investigating whether the October 24th board vote violated securities law, fiduciary duty, or constituted fraud. Your cooperation is appreciated. For 3 hours, I walked them through everything. The hiring of Sarah's family. The financial irregularities. The emails. The plan to liquidate assets. The hostile vote disguised as strategic planning. Jennifer took notes. Her assistant took notes. Another investigator joined halfway through and took more notes. Finally, Jennifer sat back. Mr. Peterson, I'll be direct. Based on what you've shown us, This appears to be a coordinated effort to illegally seize control of your company for personal enrichment. That's serious. We'll be expanding our investigation to include all board members who participated in the vote, as well as conducting a full financial audit of Peterson Tech Solutions going back 3 years. What does that mean? It means Kyle Roy, Sarah Peterson, Monica Hayes, Jerry Thompson, and 3 others are now under federal investigation. It means if we find evidence of fraud, they could face criminal charges. And it means your Article 11, Section B clause likely saved your company from being dismantled. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. What happens now? We continue investigating. You work with your attorneys to determine reinstatement procedures. And Mr. Peterson, she looked at me seriously, don't communicate with any of the individuals under investigation. No calls, no texts, no emails. Anything you say could complicate the investigation. Understood. Part 8. The reckoning. The next 2 weeks were chaos. The SEC investigation became public. Local news picked it up. Tech CEO fights back against hostile takeover. Then national news. My phone rang constantly with reporters wanting interviews. I declined all of them. Sarah hired a lawyer. Kyle hired a lawyer. They all hired lawyers. Morrison and Associates scheduled a formal reinstatement hearing for November 8th. All board members were required to attend. The hearing would determine whether I'd be reinstated as CEO and what would happen to everyone who'd voted against me. Catherine called me the night before. David, I just want you to know I never wanted any of this. When Sarah started talking about the vote, I told her it was wrong. She said I'd be fired if I didn't go along. You voted against me, Catherine. I know. I was scared. I have 3 kids, a mortgage. I couldn't afford to lose my job. But I documented everything. Every meeting, every conversation. If you want my testimony, you have it. Thank you, I said. That means more than you know. November 8th arrived. The hearing was held in a conference room at Morrison and Associates' office. It was enormous. Mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Phoenix. I arrived early with my lawyers. Sarah showed up with Kyle, both looking exhausted and furious. Monica came alone, crying. Jerry looked like he'd aged 10 years. Richard Morrison stood at the head of the table. We're here to determine the reinstatement of David Peterson as CEO of Peterson Tech Solutions and to address the actions of the board members who voted for his removal on October 24th. Mr. Peterson, please present your case. I didn't need to say much. My lawyers presented the documentation. The emails. The financial records. The SEC investigation findings. Catherine's testimony. It took 2 hours. When they finished, Sarah's lawyer stood up. My client maintains that the vote was conducted legally according to corporate bylaws. While the Article 11 clause is valid, it doesn't negate the original concerns about Mr. Peterson's leadership. Richard Morrison looked at him coldly. The concerns were pretextual. The evidence shows a coordinated scheme to seize control of the company for personal gain. The vote wasn't about leadership. It was about theft. Kyle's lawyer tried next. My client is a qualified CFO who, your client, Morrison interrupted, sent 17 emails discussing how to extract maximum value from Peterson Tech before inevitable collapse. That's not a CFO protecting a company. That's a vulture circling prey. The room went silent. Morrison looked at each board member. Here's what's going to happen. David Peterson will be immediately reinstated as CEO with full authority. All actions taken between October 24th and today are hereby declared void. Kyle Roy, Sarah Peterson, Monica Hayes, and Jerry Thompson are terminated effective immediately. Your severance packages are voided due to cause. You have 1 hour to collect personal items from the office, and you are permanently banned from company property. Sarah shot to her feet. You can't do this. I'm his wife. I have rights. You have the right to hire a divorce attorney, Morrison said, his voice flat. Because based on the evidence presented, you married Mr. Peterson under false pretenses as part of a long-term scheme to gain access to his company. That's fraud. And if the SEC investigation determines criminal intent, you'll have much bigger problems than losing your job. She looked at me, desperate. David, please. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. I met her eyes. You told me I wasn't man enough to fight for the company I built. You were wrong. Part 9. Walking back in Monday morning, November 11th. I woke up at 6 a.m., put on the same suit I'd worn to our 25th anniversary gala, and drove to the office. The parking lot was full. Word had spread that I was coming back. Employees wanted to see it happen. I walked through the front door at 9 a.m. sharp. Amy, the receptionist, looked up, eyes wide. Mr. Peterson, welcome back. Thank you, Amy. The walk to the executive floor felt different this time. People stopped at their desks, watching. A few started clapping, then more. By the time I reached the elevator, the entire floor was applauding. I felt my throat tighten. These were people I'd hired, trained, promoted. People who'd stayed loyal even when things got crazy. They deserved better than what Sarah and Kyle had planned. The executive floor was eerily quiet. Most of the offices were empty. Sarah's office, she'd moved into the CEO suite after the vote, was being cleaned out. Her things in boxes, her nameplate already removed. Catherine was waiting outside my office. Everything's ready. Your access is restored. The legal department prepared these. She handed me a folder. Reinstatement paperwork. Just sign and you're officially back. I signed. Same cheap pen. My hand didn't shake this time. Catherine, you voted against me. I know. I'm so sorry, but you documented everything. You tried to warn me in your own way. You're keeping your job. In fact, I'm promoting you. COO position. I need people I can trust. She looked stunned. David, I don't deserve. Yes, you do. You made a mistake under pressure, but you did the right thing in the end. That matters. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I won't let you down. I walked into my office. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. The framed invoice, the brass anvil, the credenza, the hidden panel. I sat down at my desk and took a deep breath. My phone buzzed. Text from Emma. Dad, I saw the news. Are you okay? I stared at the message. We hadn't really talked in 2 years. I'd been so focused on the company, on Sarah, on everything else. I'd let my relationship with my daughter disintegrate. I called her. Emma? Dad, hi. I wanted to make sure you're okay. I'm okay. I'm sorry for everything. For not being there. For choosing work over you. For Dad, stop, she interrupted softly. I know. And I'm sorry too. For being distant. For not trying harder. A pause. Can we start over? I'd like that. We talked for an hour. Really talked, for the first time in years. She told me about her life in Seattle, her job at Microsoft, her boyfriend. I told her about everything that had happened, everything I'd learned. Sarah was never right for you, Emma said. I tried to tell you. I know. I should have listened. You're not the first guy to fall for someone who didn't deserve you, she chuckled slightly. You're just the first one to have a secret clause that let you destroy them legally. I laughed. Actually laughed. Martin would have loved hearing that. Martin was smart. You were smart for listening to him 28 years ago. Dad? Yeah, I'm proud of you. Those 4 words. I hadn't heard them in so long. Thank you, sweetheart. After we hung up, I sat at my desk and looked out the window. The city stretched out below. 28 years of work, of building, of mistakes and successes, and everything in between. Sarah was gone. Kyle was gone. All of them gone. But the company was still here. Stronger, actually. The employees who mattered had stayed. The clients were loyal. The work continued. I opened the hidden panel one more time, took out the brown leather binder, and flipped to page 37, Article 11, Section V. The clause that had saved everything. I took out my phone and sent a text to Martin Chin. I'd found his number in my old contacts. Martin, it's David Peterson. Remember that paranoid clause you thought was overkill? I used it. Thank you for being smarter than I was. 3 minutes later, he responded, holy expletive. You're welcome. Bear on me next time you're in Maine. I smiled and carefully placed the binder back in its spot. Then I added one more thing, a handwritten note. For whoever finds this, no clause ever gets buried. The words you write today might save you tomorrow. Build carefully. Trust cautiously. Protect what matters. I closed the panel, turned to my computer, and started working. There was a company to rebuild, and this time, I wasn't letting anyone take it from me again. Epilogue: 3 months later, Peterson Tech Solutions was thriving. Without the dead weight of Sarah's family, we'd cut costs by 30%, improved efficiency, and landed 2 major new contracts. The SEC investigation concluded. Kyle, Sarah, Monica, and Jerry were all charged with securities fraud and conspiracy. Sarah's lawyer worked out a plea deal. Kyle went to trial. I didn't follow it closely. I'd moved on. Emma visited for Thanksgiving. We spent a week together just talking, reconnecting. She met Catherine, met the team, saw the company. Dad, this place. You built something amazing. We built something amazing, I corrected. It's not just me anymore. Marcus came back as Chief Technology Officer. His first day back, we stood in the parking lot where my old office used to be, torn down and rebuilt years ago, and just laughed. 28 years, he said. We made it. We did. Sarah filed for divorce. I didn't contest it. Gave her a fair settlement. Not what she wanted, but fair. She moved to California. I heard she was working as a consultant, telling people she used to run a major tech company. Let her have the lie. Call served 18 months in federal prison. Got out and disappeared. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership in Texas. Me? I'm 54 years old, single, running the company I built from nothing. And for the first time in years, I'm happy. I kept that cheap pen. Still use it to sign important documents. And I keep the leather binder in its hiding spot, just in case. Because the truth is, you never know when you'll need insurance. And sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back. It's building something so carefully, so intentionally, that even when someone thinks they've won, they realize too late they were never playing the same game. Article 11, Section B. 5 words I almost forgot about. 5 words that saved everything. 1 year later, Emma moved back to Phoenix. She's working at Peterson Tech as head of our new AI division. Marcus is teaching her everything he knows. Catherine just got married and asked me to walk her down the aisle since her father passed away years ago. And me, I'm teaching a business class at the local community college, showing young entrepreneurs how to protect what they build, how to trust cautiously, how to write the clauses that might save them someday. One student asked me last week, Mr. Peterson, do you regret anything? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I regret not listening to the people who saw what I couldn't see. I regret letting loneliness make decisions for me. I regret almost losing something I spent my life building. But I don't regret fighting back. And I don't regret the clause that let me win. Would you do it all again? He asked. I smiled. Everything except marry Sarah. The class laughed, but I meant it. Because in the end, Article 11, Section B, wasn't just about protecting a company. It was about protecting yourself from the people who only love what you can give them, not who you are. And 28 years ago, a paranoid young man in a garage signing documents at 2 a.m. with his best friend somehow knew that one day he'd need exactly that kind of protection. Thank God he listened to his lawyer. Thank God he buried that clause deep. And thank God he never forgot where he came from. Because in business, like in life, the details you hide today might be the salvation you need tomorrow. No clause ever gets buried. Some just wait for the right moment to save you. So, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced a betrayal like this, where you had to reach deep into your past to find a way forward? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.